We remember, we celebrate, we believe. The Hope Appeal in the Diocese of Syracuse. Our celebration of the 125th anniversary of our diocese has been taken to new heights by the news that the first saint from the Diocese of Syracuse will be canonized this year. Blessed Mary Ann Cope will be canonized a saint on October 21st in Rome.
Well, I think it's a wonderful blessing for the Diocese of Syracuse to have a woman who was formed in the faith, nurtured in the faith here, then did so many good things here in Syracuse and Utica, went off to Hawaii, where she worked with people who were really the outcasts of society. She gave her life to that, spent her life there, and became a saint. She gives all of us an example. The saints are examples for us of people who have lived their lives successfully, recognized their role in life, depended upon the gifts that God has given them, and shared those gifts with other people.
There are saints among us today acting as God's hands on earth through ministries funded by the Hope Appeal. Here are some of the programs your generous donations help to fund. Catholic Charities. Catholic Charities in Broome County is the 5th largest food pantry in New York State. Over 500,000 meals were served to 34,000 people, half of them children, and a growing number of them are elderly.
We're seeing people coming in that are in their 80s and into their 90s that are being brought in by caseworkers.
We're here to serve everybody, and we're here to make sure that the least among us have what they need and aren't turned away.
This past September, Broome County was hit with devastating floods, and Catholic Charities was there to help.
This is the 3rd disaster that we've had to face in 5 years. We responded to the flooding of 2006. We had the American Civic Association tragedy in 2009, where people actually, the family members actually came to our Catholic Charities building to wait for word of their loved ones. And then this flooding.
Within a week, we had 5 relief centers set up by 5 Catholic parishes. It was the parishioners sitting in the pews that manned those relief centers. It was our Catholic faith in action.
I was down there a day or two after the major flooding, and you saw huge areas of Binghamton, Johnson City just flooded over. People whose lives were upended because of this tragedy, people whose memories were in boxes at the curb. We continue to serve them in any way we can.
Family life.
When I meet with couples, I always say to them, I can do the paperwork and I can talk to you about the sacrament. I'm a celibate priest. I don't live a married life. Doesn't it make sense that we have Catholic couples who are out there living marriage? Not a perfect marriage. No one is a perfect marriage. But if they're out there saying, this is what we've experienced in our sacrament of marriage that might help you, it's important for them to share. They're sharing their vocations.
We talk about forgiveness and letting go of the hurts of the past. Both the ones they're carrying with them into marriage, but also as the marriage is ongoing, to be able to forgive one another, growing in their trust and confidence in each other throughout their lifetime together.
After several years of being married civilly, Daniel and Sean Carell decided they wanted their marriage to be blessed by the church, so they attended marriage prep classes.
Well, you always hear, everyone's always like, oh, I gotta go through the marriage classes. I love them. Like, after I got there, I don't know, I just learned so much about both of us together and both of us separately that was so worth it.
Yeah, I agree. And everybody really bent over backwards to make sure that we were going to make our marriage right with the church. And I need not say that my mother and my grandparents were thrilled that we finally got it done. So.
Frank and Veronica Tokars have been married nearly 75 years. They got married in this very church in Skaneateles.
It was Depression time. We didn't have the money to put on a wedding. I did housework for a living, and I had $18.92 to buy a wedding gown, and it was satin. It was beautiful. I borrowed my sister's veil. He bought a suit, and we got married here in St. Mary's.
When asked why they had such a strong marriage, Frank said this.
She accepted my faults, and we got along very well.
And he said that no matter where they went together. Faith formation.
I love coming and seeing the kids and how excited they are to be here and learn about God.
Right now they might not get it, but when they get older, their faith is going to take them a really long way, and it's going to help them through everything hard in their life. And I think it's important to learn at a young age that God is always going to be there for you, no matter what you're going through.
Kids are being bombarded with negative images from media, video games. There's just a lot of barriers, I think, for these kids as far as a relationship with God. Their minds are so fresh and they're so willing to learn. And if we can just offset, the negative images that are being brought to them all the time with, these messages of hope and love, that, again, that's gives me hope. It gives me hope, it gives them hope.
Catholic schools.
I think most of the leaders that we find in parishes today have had some kind of a Catholic background in terms of education.
Generous donations to the Hope Appeal allow so many of our young people to receive a Catholic education that otherwise wouldn't have the opportunity to do so.
Students at Bishop Grimes make thousands of rosaries out of string and donate them to deployed members of the military. They're not allowed to carry traditional rosaries because they might jingle in their pockets.
We got several notes, thank you notes, from servicemen saying, you don't know what it means to be able to carry this rosary with me. Or I've carried it for 4 years and I'm so happy to bring it back to the United States.
We actually just got a letter from the Air Division, and they appreciated it so much.
From the bottom of my heart, thank you for the beautiful knotted rosaries and holy cards. I serve with several hundred airmen and soldiers in an undisclosed deployed location. I know many of them will pour out their prayers on them. Keep up the great ministry. Father David Reinhardt, Chaplain, United States Air Force.
The service by itself is rewarding, just to know where it's going and how it's benefiting people.
I say, look how far you can reach into the world with a tiny piece of string.
Service is an important component of Catholic education, and we're grateful that the students at Bishop Grimes and our other Catholic schools throughout the diocese are learning this in their everyday lives.
Hospital ministry.
I have a very, very strong faith, Catholic faith, and have been brought up all the way through Catholic schools, and never realized how important it was to have pastoral care into the hospital setting until I experienced it firsthand for myself. My dad, 2 years ago, was a dialysis patient here, and in between all of this was diagnosed with cancer and also was a cardiac patient. So he had multiple issues going on, and at one point during his care he had to make some very, very difficult decisions that he was struggling with. The first person that came to my mind was Sister Maureen here from our pastoral care. I watched Sister interact with patients, and I asked her if she would visit my dad, and from that point on pastoral care was so important and such an integral part of my dad's care here as he traveled through dialysis, as he traveled through the cancer center, and as he ended up coming in as an inpatient on 6th floor where he eventually passed. Sister was, and pastoral care was just a huge piece to our family's holistic care here.
I've been doing this work for 28 years. The memories I have of the people who invite me into their lives at this critical time, these difficult decisions they have to make, these worrisome moments, in their family histories, and to invite me in and be able to listen to the stories, to be with them as they're going through the pain, the anxiety, the spiritual pain. It's just a privilege, absolute privilege.
Why should you support the Hope Appeal?
Last year, 200,000 people in our community of every religious persuasion were helped through the Hope Appeal. In educational, charitable, and healthcare institutions, in our ministry to the sick and to the poor, these people are helped. Those of us who have received blessings from the Lord have an obligation and a privilege to be able to help others who are in need. And all of us can help other people. And we hope that people who support the work of the Hope Appeal will know that their dollars are well used, and they're all used to help people here within the Diocese of Syracuse.
The body of Christ.
Please give generously to this year's Hope Appeal.